Here we go again. What's good, Internet? My name is Attack Slug, and today it is time to discuss WWE 2K18 on the Switch and the 2K official forums. Now, 2K18 on the Switch has been out for about 2 months or so now, and is still, after, like 2 patches, is still a fundamental technical mess. This is not debatable, this is not defensible. These are facts, folks. That version of that game should never have been released. But this video is about the official WWE 2K18 forums over on 2K.com. And I do enjoy checking in there from time to time because it is one of the few places on the internet where you will still find folks defending 2K every single time. Although at this point, it's kind of hard to tell who's being genuine and who's just trolling. It's the internet, after all. And I know that any official forum for any major publisher or developer is gonna kind of be a toxic cesspool of a community. I know BioWare shut down their forums in 2016, and definitely any publisher releasing bad versions of games that were already mediocre to begin with is gonna get a lot of hate on the internet. And I know that forum moderation is a thankless and often unpaid job. I've done it years ago for one of the, at the time, more prominent 9-Inch Nails message boards, and then after that for rhymetorrents.org, which then became .com, which then became Nerdcore now, kind of the only place at the time for nerdcore discussion. I kind of ran that, or I moderated that stuff for a good long time. And so I know that anyone doing these jobs on the 2K forums to moderate these conversations has their mandate from up high, from 2K, and they kind of can't deviate from that. I get it. 90% of this video is kind of on 2K, not necessarily the moderation staff on the forums. But you could always quit, just saying. Anyway, this whole thing started about a week ago, around the whole time of Switch getting the big patch for 2K18, and that patch just kind of not really fixing much of anything. So the catalyst, as far as I can tell, is this thread right here. The WWE 2K18 is coming to the Switch, which, as of locking time, has 43 pages and 1,706 replies therein. Most of those being before that version of the game even came out. And basically, after that big patch came out and the game still has a laundry list of issues, the anger had kind of shifted to, hey, let's call up 2K support, let's call up Nintendo and get refunds, let's, send out as much of a missive here to folks who might want to be angry about it to, hey, get your refunds if you can, complain if you can, but be respectful in your complaining. And it seems like that got the thread locked, mainly because apparently the phone number for 2K support is no longer a thing, even though supposedly they got that number from Nintendo to call and complain to 2K. And so, you know what? Shut it down. Shut the whole thing down. It has to be reviewed. That was, at this point, over a week ago. Now, with the fact that this all came to a head within the last several pages of the thread, the question remains, how slow do you read if it's been over a week and it's still locked? How much time do you need to review this thread? Because honestly, a 43-page thread I could do in an afternoon. It's not that big of a deal. Now, I should mention, this is a moderation staff that is known to delete posts, to delete parts of posts they don't agree with, and to derail conversations in this very thread, where instead of, alright, everyone's angry that the game's broken, so let's debate the meaning of the word broken as it pertains to video games. At what point is a game completely broken, or a broken mess? That is a deliberate derailing of a thread to get folks talking about something else instead of the fact that you put out a fundamentally technical piece of shit game and you're very, very quiet on what's going to be done about that game. So, okay, you locked one thread. You had an issue, your boss has told you, no, shut that thing down. You had an issue. Alright, fine. But then, over the course of that week, where clearly you've been doing nothing, we have people who are obviously still upset, still annoyed that they spent $60 on a game that generally does not function as intended. So what happens when you want to, say, open a different thread about the Switch version of 2K18? Lockdown! Alright, let's try this again and open up another one. Lockdown! Let's try one more time and ask about the DLC, which people, at this point, if you bought that season pass on a Switch, you shouldn't have, but if you did, you paid for it, they patched the game, and everyone hooked. Alright, they're gonna patch it, here's the DLC. No DLC yet. Lockdown! This is a very clear case of the publisher trying to sweep any bad news under the rug and hope that folks forget about this debacle in 6 months when they open up pre-orders for 2K19, which I suppose is not a terrible strategy considering the usual short-term memory of the internet in general. Because every year since like 2K16, I try to warn people. Every year when they're getting all hyped up, and I'm like, hey, maybe step back a bit and look at previous releases and what happened with those. Everyone's like, no, Attack Slug, you're being too negative. People are like, this will be the year, Slug. They're gonna fix everything, no animation glitches, it's gonna be amazing, it's gonna be as great as Here Comes the Pain, or No Mercy, etc., etc. And then the game comes out, and it's filled with the same amounts of bugs, animation glitches, etc., etc., right? And so at that point, once the game's out, and they have your money, and it is very apparent what the quality of the game is, then people who are defending it turn to, oh, wait for the patches. No. They'll fix it in the patches. So just wait. Be patient for the patches. They're very busy. And then every year, when the final DLC comes out, that's the final patch, and guess what? It still has that laundry list of issues. And sometimes those patches actually break things that worked in the first place. But the bottom line is, once they've sold you all that DLC, they're going to patch as much as they want to patch. This is a yearly product. And believe me, I understand it is a yearly product. But once again, in about 6 months from now, they're going to be all getting all hyped up for 2K19, just like every freaking year. So yeah, of course they're going to lock it down. Of course they're going to lock down any discussion on a game that should never have been released in the first place. And obviously, I don't know what happened behind the scenes here. Perhaps it was a mandate from WWE saying, no, you have to put this game out. Because honestly, it is not unheard of for a game to get announced and then get canceled. Scalebound. It is not unheard of for a game to get all the way up until they print the damn discs and then get canceled. EA did it for NBA Elite 11. That game had a demo. That game actually made it out into a handful of people's hands, the actual boxed copies, and it got canceled like the week before it came out. Essentially, it's a corporate write-off. And this game should have been a corporate write-off. They should have apologized now and make it up to us next year instead of releasing a steaming pile of garbage because of corporate greed. Because hey, the Switch sold really, really well. We gotta have it out on the Switch this year regardless of the quality. Somebody in that chain of command should have pulled the plug, but they didn't. So here we are 2 months later with a game that is a complete, fundamental, technical mess on just about every level. Look at these tips. Look at these tips and try and justify that being normal for a video game. If you have to follow 8 steps for a game to run smooth, for one mode to run right, then somebody, somewhere, really effed up. To then have this garbage fire, one of the most broken games from a major publisher in 2017, to have people pay $60 for a game that you literally launched with 2 days of notice, to then say to all of these rightfully annoyed consumers that you just got money from and tell them, no, don't talk about this version of the game. It is some of the most shady-ass corporate greed I have seen in quite some time. And the funny part here is that 2K, because they don't have a phone number you can call about customer support, they direct folks to the forums to air their grievances and their complaints on the forums, and then they lock it down. As soon as the conversation steers to accountability and refunds, they lock it down. They desperately want you to forget about this before they start up their pre-order campaign for 2K19 in about 6 months. And maybe by the time this video goes up, they'll have reviewed the situation. I think that having to spend a week to review a thread in this nature and locking down any other conversation about a game that has serious issues is messed up. They want you to forget but I'm here to make sure that you don't. And maybe, just maybe, when they patch the Switch version of this game, perhaps one more time to actually get the DLC out there, perhaps that'll fix the frame rate issues. Perhaps, if you have hope, it will. But look at their previous track record the past several years and don't get your hopes up. Because it seems like the next patch for 2K18 is going to cost you $60 and be called 2K19. Right here, from the moderators themselves. I guess no one knows if there are any more patches in the works. But it may help pinpoint issues for 2K19 at the very least. So basically, hey, we got your money. And make sure to keep giving us your money every single year. At the end of the day, there's no real good answers here. If you bought it digitally on the Switch, call up Nintendo. Other folks have had luck getting refunds saying, hey, this thing that I was sold does not function as advertised. Therefore, revoke the license and give back the money. 2K does not want you doing that, but I would highly recommend you do that. If you bought it physically, you're kind of out of luck here. And on one final note, before I wrap things up here in this video, I would suggest that if 2K sees this video and they decide to get a little bit spicy here on the internet and attempts to issue a strike to take down this video, that would be a very, very bad idea. Look up the Streisand effect. Realize that I have friends with much larger channels and much larger audiences, and you don't want to end up on the front page of Reddit, all I'm saying. Anyway, I am your host, Attack Slug. This has been a discussion on 2K locking down all discussion on the 2K18 Switch version, which is, as I said, a complete and total mess. More videos every day, and I'll see you next time, right here on this channel, and I'm out.